Hello! Another year, another OC-tober, eh? I don't know how many of you have watched last year's video, but I did say I was never gonna do this again. I finally completed the month-long daily art challenge. I survived, I made it, I'm never doing it again, truly. But here we are. I've forgotten how much work this is, and so we're doing it again. I've once again made my own prompt list this year, and thank you to everyone who followed along with it as well. It was really fun to see. But let me take you along for the journey of OC-tober 2025. Day 1, redesign an old OC. This was my first ever OC that's never had a redesign. This was originally a medieval fantasy story about a witch in a world where magic is outlawed. It was basically BBC's Merlin because I was obsessed with that show. But I've changed it for this to be set more in the 1700s, 1800s sort of fantasy world. I want it to be sort of like during the witch trials era. Not specifically Salem witch trials, but just that general vibe, you know? And I used fashion from those eras as inspo for this design, as well as making it look fantasy-ish. And I wanted her to look like there's something a little bit off about her, a little bit, you know, like she might get accused for being a witch. I also tried to give her just a hint of asymmetry in the dress, and then some riding boots that are paired with like this fancy attire, just giving her a bunch of juxtaposition in that sense that gives this sort of confusing, uneasy vibe, hopefully. That was what I was trying to do. I also think that helps convey her sort of out there personality. I recently tried to revamp her story in my Q&A video, if you haven't seen that I did for my birthday, if you're interested in what her lore could be. But yeah, I think overall, my character design skills have improved a lot since I was 14 years old, which is when I first designed the character and then never updated. I definitely design with a lot more intention now. But yeah, I actually really like how this design turned out, and it makes me kind of tempted to actually maybe try to revamp her story. Let me know if you guys think I should. Day 2, Coffee Shop AU. For this, I did my time travel characters, Bird and Martina. The idea for this was to have them working at an early shift at some schmancy coffee shop. Bird is just not a morning person, which is ironic for his name, Bird. He's not an early bird. And then Martina is very much a morning person. So I wanted to draw him looking very eepy, and she's mildly judging him. And that's very much just what their dynamic is. She likes to tease him a lot. But yeah, for this drawing, I really wanted to try and practice doing backgrounds or like implied backgrounds. So it's not like super neat. It's a little more simple, but I think it like does the job of, oh, they're in a coffee shop. You know what I mean? I'd like to try and do a webcomic someday. And so I wanted to use this as a bit of practice in regards to doing backgrounds like this. Kind of a comic-y format for the drawing in general as well. So yeah, that's this one. Day 3, opposite personality. For this, I drew Kai from my fantasy world, and he's reacting to opposite Kai, which is just him with the opposite personality that he normally have. Also, I had to say it like that because I typed out opposite Kai and I added a little wave to it. I don't know why I did that, but now I can't not read it like that. Anyway, you'll see that later. But Kai is generally a very quiet, kind of grumpy fella. So opposite Kai is very cheerful and energetic, and honestly kind of similar to one of the other characters in the fantasy story, Theo, which I thought was really funny. I think Kai would be kind of embarrassed or like annoyed by this opposite version. That's kind of how he feels about Theo too sometimes. So I wanted to try and depict that dynamic in this doodle. I also thought it'd be funny to give opposite Kai a little bow where his shirt ties instead of the normal stringy thing that he's got going, to sort of show that more soft personality that he doesn't actually have. But I didn't want to change the design too much, so that's the only element that I really changed. I never really know what to do with backgrounds for these sort of drawings, like the doodly goofy ones. So it is just kind of, my go-to is like a screen tone and a little box. That's what I did. I don't know. I never really know what to do. Day 4, favorite duo. I chose Joe and Noel for my supernatural characters for this. Their friendship sort of first comes to be on the night of their grade 8 graduation. It's in Canada because I'm Canadian, so they graduate grade 8 and then go into high school. So that's what the setting was. So I wanted to draw them in the outfits they wear for that. So like a sort of semi-formal, but for preteens. So I gave Joe this like little sparkly, more modern kind of dress. And then Noel has some hand-me-downs. And like a woolen blazer and a really ugly tie that his father gave him shortly. But yeah, they aren't really friends at the beginning of the story because Joe is a very like nosy person and Noel is a very private person. So I wanted to sort of capture their dynamic in those early stages of their personality with the pose. So I've got her sort of leaning on his shoulder, very like up in his personal space, and him just looking kind of awkward and uncomfortable. But because they're actually starting to become friends, you know, he's starting to be okay with it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. This is one of my favorites of the month, and surely it's not because it's purple. That's only part of why. But yeah, there they are. Day 5 at sunset. So for this prompt, I had planned to do a matching picture for a future prompt. So this is Alma's side of the set. I've got her in this flower field, which is where she first met Niall, who will be the second half. And it's obviously at sunset. Honestly, I was struggling a lot with faces this day. Specifically, I don't know, like profiles are so hit or miss for me. Sometimes I find them quite easy to do. This was not one of those days. So I kept messing with her face. I'm still not 100% happy with it. But I did have a lot of fun doing the rendering. I love rendering and I love doing schmancy lighting. So doing a little sunset scene was really fun for me. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this one. Just that the rendering was fun. And I kind of like to redraw it at some point. Because, like I said, the faces were not facing that day. Day 6, color palette swap. For this, I've got Kai and Niall, because they would hate to have their color palette swapped. They're kind of like enemies, I suppose. To Kai, Niall is like the ultimate villain, and to Niall, Kai is annoying. So they don't like each other. So I had to make them switch color schemes because it would be funny. And I like their color schemes on themselves, but on each other they look crazy. Especially Kai's color palette on Niall, it makes his color palette look ugly. No offense, Niall, but he does not pull it off. Honestly, I wasn't fully sure how to depict a color palette swap, even though I made the prompt. So I did just draw them kind of glaring at each other, being all grumpy. I also was feeling kind of lazy, and I really wanted to pace myself with art so I don't get burnt out too quick. Spoiler alert, I do get burnt out. But for this, I just colored in the second sketch instead of doing like proper line art. So it's a little messy looking if you zoom in. Just don't zoom in. Don't do that. And once again, I wasn't sure what to do with the background for a silly, goofy drawing like this. So once again, it is just screen tone with boxes. The color's kind of ugly. I wish I didn't do like that grayish color. I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm not going to change it now. But yeah, this is probably one of my least favorites of the month, to be honest. Day 7 magazine cover. I have chosen Saber from Chosen Ones Academy, which is like a school for chosen ones of different universes, and in his universe he was an idol before the zombie apocalypse happened. So I wanted to draw his debut magazine cover that was made to promote his first ever single. I looked at a bunch of teen magazines for this as reference, as well as like Japanese and Korean pop magazines. I gave it a really generic name, Pop Beat. I don't know, I was trying to find a magazine name that wasn't taken, and shockingly this one wasn't, I don't think. But yeah, I also made the release date of this the date that I posted this, so October 7th is the 7th prompt, which I thought was a fun little detail to do, even though this looks really summery. I don't know, it's fine. It's okay. I also used last year's saber drawing from OC-tober as the sort of sneak peek feature on the cover. I thought that'd be a fun thing to do as well. But yeah, I like to think that during the apocalypse, he carries this little magazine around with him to prove to people that he was famous, or almost famous, that he almost achieved his dreams. That's really sad sounding, but I thought it was funny while drawing it. And now I'm saying it out loud and I'm like, aw, that's kind of sad, buddy. But yeah, there's the magazine cover. Day 8, meme redraw. So I picked the meme of the guy baking his long-distance boyfriend into a cookie. And I did this with Amber and her missing boyfriend. So I changed the word long-distance to missing. These are characters from my fantasy story. And both of them are very, like, free-spirited, wanderer, adventurer type people, but both of them were sort of pulled into different situations and obligations, and they got separated. So Amber had to leave to help in the war, and her boyfriend, who still needs a name, he had his own little journey he had to go on, but they've not seen each other since. So I took their angsty storyline and made it a meme, as one does. But yeah, this one was really fun to do. It was nice and simple art style wise, and I had a very clear like copying the pose and everything, so it was a good time to work on this one. Day 9, angst. So speaking of angst, here we are. I honestly wasn't sure what to pick for this one because there's so many options of angst I could do, you know? But my friend suggested I do Tal from Chosen One's Academy, so that's what I did. Tal is from a supernatural world where Earth is dead and humans are looking for a new planet to colonize, because they definitely would do that. And Tal is basically like a retro buff, but from the future, so they really love all things Earth, but specifically like natural Earth. They're not really into like what humans were doing on Earth. They're interested in all the like landscaping and nature that they never got to see in their lifetime. So I had this vision of them looking into this mirror and seeing like this world that they long for. Maybe this mirror is like very high tech and like can depict all these things that aren't actually there. So it's them looking into this mirror, seeing this world that they wish they were living in with all this lush greenery. But then we have like a zoom out where the reality is them standing in this big, empty, cold spaceship. That was my vision. It did not come to fruition, rhyming, which is unfortunate. I just really struggled with this one a lot. I never really managed to get it to look how I envisioned, sadly. So I honestly might redraw this someday, because looking at it upsets me. It's just not what I wanted. Day 10, at night. So this is the one that matches with the day 5 Alma at sunset. So we've got Niall at night. So I have him standing in the same field that they first met in, but he's much more dramatic about this than she is. So while she looked very hopeful in her drawing, he looks very lost. But I tried to have both of them have this sort of sense of longing because they are separated for most of the story. So I wanted to sort of depict that separation. I also think that's just a good representation of their sort of dynamic, especially at the beginning of the story when they first met. But yeah, I was really happy with this one. I love rendering nighttime lighting and like moonlit stuff. My favorite piece from last year was one of Comet, my D&D character, in the moonlight. And this one's one of my favorites from this month as well. So I don't know, I guess I just really enjoy doing moonlight stuff. And the profile in this one actually turned out well, in my opinion. So that's good that I didn't struggle with it that day. Much better than how Alma turned out, in my opinion. Day 11, Fairy Tale AU. I picked Joe and Noel once again for this as Red Riding Hood. So Noel is a werewolf in the actual story, so him being the wolf in this Fairy Tale AU just made sense. And Joe is a very naive and curious type of person, which is quite similar to Red Riding Hood. So I think that they both sort of slotted into their characters very well. And I had a lot of fun designing the little outfits for them. I didn't put a whole lot of effort into it, but I enjoyed doing that even a little. And also something about the way the whole drawing came together, like the background, the costumes, and the posing and everything, just reminds me a lot of theater. Like, it was kind of giving Into the Woods, the musical. I don't know. And so looking at this, I was thinking, like, I could low-key see them being theater kids and doing theater in high school. I probably won't actually write that into the story, but I could definitely see it for them. I think, especially because Noel in this drawing is looking at her so, like, villainous, which is just very out of character. He's really committed to this role of the wolf in Little Red Riding Hood, which I think is really funny. I also had a good time doing the lighting, the sort of bluish black lighting. That was fun to do. Day 12, playing an instrument. So I've got Theo from my fantasy story. I mentioned him a little bit earlier. Theo is a very, like, isolated and lonely person when he's first introduced. Niall was sort of like his safe space or person. So when Niall left the demon world, Theo began to spend a lot of time alone. And, you know, you gotta fill your time. He wasn't doing much, so he started crafting and building things to fill his time alone. So one of the things that he's made was this instrument. I don't know what it is. It's just a box. He found a box and turned it into an instrument. Kind of like a guitar ukulele thing. I looked up, like, cigar box guitars and stuff like that, sort of handmade instruments as reference for this. That's the type of thing that he would have built. But yeah, to be honest, much like him, I was getting kind of bored. So I want to do something a bit different with the rendering, and I messed around with the watercolor brush. I don't know how I feel about the result, but it was fun to do. But yeah, that's him. Day 13, OC that dies. So for this, I've got Florian from Chosen One's Academy. So last year, for the prompt Happy Memory, I drew Romeo and Florian. Romeo is an actual main character, Chosen One, and Florian is his childhood best friend. Romeo is the prophetic hero, and Florian is the prince. So they both grew up together in the castle. And at the beginning of the story, Romeo is a very, like, arrogant person, and he doesn't really want to go to the Chosen One's Academy. He doesn't think he needs it, you know? He's above that. He's much too skilled. There's nothing they could possibly teach him. However, after failing to save Florian during a siege on the castle, he realizes he's not as capable as he thought he was. So Florian's death is sort of Romeo's final push to get him to go to this school. So for this drawing, I wanted to draw Florian's memorial painting with Romeo walking away from it. Yeah, it was fun to sort of do a painting and portrait. I tried to make it look like that sort of style. Let me know if that turned out or if it just looks like my normal style. I can't really tell. Day 14, tarot card. So for this one, I've got Axel from the fantasy story, and he is the advisor to the king, which is Niall. And he tries to make Niall seem like this really evil, horrible king by giving him these awful ideas and then pretending like he's being held captive and forced to be on the royal council and all that. So I wanted to draw him as the devil card. Now, I didn't know much about tarot before starting this, so I did a bunch of research, and there's a few meanings for this card that I saw in my research, and I do think that they fit the character, but I'm not confident enough in my researching abilities to explain them, so I won't in case I'm wrong. But my main focus for this was the imagery. So all the characters present on the original tarot card, including the trapped humans, all have demon horns. The humans also have these shackles that aren't actually tying them to anything, which I think was important symbolism on the cards, both of those things. So coincidentally, Niall's character design features both of these things, the little horns and the shackles. So I wanted to like impose those from Niall onto Axel. Sort of the reverse of what Axel was doing to Niall, trying to make Niall look bad. And sort of depicting how that action reflects on him as a character. I don't know. There's more symbolism I could explain, but I'm not very good at explaining things. So hopefully the imagery does what I wanted it to do, and you sort of can pick up on all those subtle imagery I've got going in there. Day 15 as a non-human. This is the missing boyfriend from the memory draw prompt. So while Amber is off to war, this fella is on his own personal little reconnaissance type mission to the demon world. Humans are not very welcome there. So he must undergo a disguise, and with the help of Theo's craftiness, he's got these little paper mache horns and these metal wrapped up ear cuff things to make his ears look pointy. So yeah, this isn't technically as a non-human because he's still human, but he's disguised as a non-human, so surely that counts. It's my prompt list, I make the rules. But I haven't drawn him in many years, so it was really fun to revisit him. And I also asked for name suggestions in the shorts, and I really appreciate all the suggestions. So many of you had such good ideas, but I have not committed to any yet. I gotta see if they stick first, you know? It's too soon to say. Thank you so much. And if any of you are seeing this and haven't seen the shorts, feel free to keep suggesting more names. I would be happy to hear them. And yeah, I really love doing spreads like this as well. I don't think I did any more this whole challenge, shockingly, but these are very fun to do. Day 16, Rivals. So we've got Bird and Martina again from Prompt 2, the time travel characters, and they are from rival time travel agencies. I was originally going to draw Jahan, which is Bird's superior, and then whoever Martina's superior would be. I was going to draw them together, having some sort of conflict, but I haven't made that character yet. He doesn't have a proper design, so instead I just sort of stuck them in the background, so there's a vague idea of a person behind Martina. He doesn't have a design yet, though, properly. And then I just wanted to draw Bird and Martina just kind of parting ways after whatever that altercation would have been. They don't really see each other as rivals. They've got this sort of like forbidden friendship almost, but not really. They've got that vibe going on. So it's just him being confused and her waving bye at him. Also, Bird has a prosthetic eye, so it does just look like he's cross-eyed right now, but he's not. He's just looking at her, but his prosthetic eye is just, it doesn't move. So I feel like I have to acknowledge that every single time in case people think I drew him cross-eyed, which I guess some people are just cross-eyed, and that's totally fair, but I can't tell if it looks intentional or not, I guess is my problem. There they are. A simple little, I was kind of lazy, so I kept the style simple. Day 17, hairstyle change. We've got my D&D character, Comet. Comet has a lot of hair, so I felt like he was the perfect candidate for this. And I was originally going to do the hairstyle meme, where you draw the different hairstyles in that chart, but I was starting to really feel the burnout. It was coming for me. So I decided to just pick one of those and went with that. So I picked the big, massive bun on the back of his head. He's got so much hair, it would be so heavy to wear in a bun, but that's fine. But it's been very hot weather in our campaign right now, so I thought maybe he'd tie it up. Probably not, because again, that'd be so heavy. I also originally had drawn him with a little smile, but I changed it to a frown because things have been rough and stressful lately. So if I'm drawing him in current campaign times, you know, not a lot to smile about these days, tragically. In fact, I think the last conversation we had last session was inquiring about cosmic doom. So things are going interestingly. I did once again struggle with the face. Profiles are so hit or miss. I don't know what to tell you. I need to practice it more, clearly. I also had no idea what I was doing for the rendering or the background. I was just kind of winging it because, like I said, I was just going to do the chart at first. So I didn't actually have any plan going into a singular drawing for it. So, I don't know. It's something. Day 18 D&D version. Speaking of D&D, this is Jasper from my Supernatural story. I actually named him while working on this, but I'm kind of considering changing it to Casper. I'm not sure. I think both suit him. I haven't landed on which one yet, though. But it says Jasper on this drawing, so maybe I have landed on one. I don't know. But he is a changeling in actual lore, in the actual Supernatural story. And there's a D&D species that is a changeling, so I felt like he was the perfect character to pick for this. I tried to alter his features to fit the D&D description of a changeling, so he's got really pale white skin and hair and these white out eyes and almost featureless face is how they described them. But I wanted to show him sort of mid-transformation, so I've got him turning into how his normal design would look with the darker blonde hair and more color in his skin. And then for the class, I made him a rogue because he's a sneaky, mischievous little guy. I was kind of lazy about the design, to be honest. I actually ended up spending way more time making a character sheet for him that I could put all the stats on the side of the drawing for than actually designing him. That's fine. It was fun to do. And working on this actually kind of made me want to try and play a changeling at some point. I don't know. Seems kind of fun. Day 19 as a human. I don't have many non-human characters to humanify other than elves and demons, but like that would just be removing horns or ears, so that's kind of boring. So I ended up deciding to go with a pet. I was still Niall with his bird, so I thought I could turn his bird into a human. I don't know. I just drew some kids surrounded by all the same type of bird. They're like chickadees, I think. And yeah, he's just surrounded by birds. I don't know. I also forgot elf ears are not a typical human trait. So he just randomly has elf ears. Don't worry about it. That's what humans look like. I don't know what you're saying. But yeah, burnout was coming for me. So I didn't bother to do proper line art. So I just colored in this messy sketch. Yeah, this was a low point in the challenge for me. I was struggling and not in the mood to do it. So it's a little bit lazy. But, you know, we gotta carry on. Day 20 in the snow. We've got Noel again, by himself this time. I just had to do a portrait so that I don't have to worry about anatomy. I was trying to like counterbalance the burnout, trying to overcome it, you know? So I drew him laying down in the snow. And because I was drawing this in October, I was definitely in a more spooky mood than I normally would be for a winter drawing. So I added some blood, which honestly I kind of like drawing blood. It's kind of fun. And the story is supposed to be kind of spooky, so I thought it would fit anyway. I'm sure he's been through it a bit at some point. I'm not entirely sure what scene this would be specifically, but it could happen. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with the rendering for this one. That was sort of my main focus because rendering is my favorite part of drawing. So getting to have that be the main focus of a drawing was very fun and relaxing. Yeah, this one, well, it's not like my favorite drawing of the month. It was one of my favorites to actually work on. So, yeah, there it is. Day 21, family portrait. Raven, Gavin, and Amber from my fantasy story. I wanted to draw them as kids, and I didn't feel like drawing their parents, so I didn't. Raven is the oldest, Amber is the middle that you saw in the meme, and Gavin is the youngest. Originally, I was having the older sisters looking down at Gavin. They're very overprotective of him, so I wanted to try and depict that, but it looked so weird, so I had to change it. Struggling, you know? And Gavin, as a kid, was a very unsure and anxious person because of how overprotective everyone was of him. He sort of lacked a lot of confidence. So I wanted him looking nervous, even though he's doing something really simple like getting his photo taken, which I don't know if that would even happen because would cameras exist in a medieval fantasy setting? Probably not. So this picture's probably not even canon. Oh well. there it is anyway. Day 22, wanted poster. I had to do a D&D character for this because what is D&D if not crime? So Comet is a pirate, so surely he has a wanted poster somewhere out there. Although before the campaign, he was like always on the ship. He didn't actually go out and do pirating. And during the campaign, He just lies to people about his name. So, Comet tells everyone he doesn't trust that his name is Steve, and that everyone else in our party is also named Steve, and claims we are part of the Steve Club. We're all just all named Steve. So I thought it'd be funny to have the wanted poster say Steve instead of Comet, so that's what I did. I also tried to make the art on this look sort of hand-drawn, like an in-universe depiction of him. And Comet is a pretty upbeat fella, so I gave him a big old smile. He's just happy to be there on this wanted poster. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one, especially doing the paper texture and everything. I don't know. It was a good time. Day 23, someone else's OC. During Art Fight back in August, I think it was, I tried to do as many as my mutuals as I could, but not all of them were on Art Fight, tragically. So I really wanted to do someone who I didn't get to draw the OC of before, and one of those people is my sister, Penfaerie. I finally got to draw one of her kids. She used Clara in an OC-tober prompt recently, so I used that as reference. This is Clara. She's so pretty. She's got really long hair and she's purple. Purple's my favorite color, so I had to draw her, you know. Sadly, though, burnout was coming for me still. So I'm not super happy with how this actually turned out. I'd like to give it another shot. Everyone go tell Penfaerie to do Art Fight next year so that I can draw her characters again. And go follow Penfaerie. I will link her stuff in the description. Day 24, doodle page. So most of the comments I get about my OCs is about Chosen One's Academy and people being interested in learning more about that story. So I wanted to use this as an opportunity to show off more of their personalities and dynamics with each other. So we've got Romeo going on about how amazing he is. Well, I mean, judges him. And then we've got Cleo thinking about how much she loves spooky things, including Anya. Saber being a victim of a Cleo prank. She drew on his face while he fell asleep. And then Tal being the tallest in the group, using the shortest, Anya, as an armrest. She is not pleased by this, but it's happening. This one was really fun to do. It's so nice and relaxing and refreshing to get to just do doodles and not worry about how they look, especially in the midst of burnout. It's a nice little break to just sort of vibe out a drawing and not stress too much about it, you know? And I hope this gave you more insight into the character dynamics, at least a little bit. Day 25, Superhero AU. So we've got Anya from Chosen One's Academy. She's from a superhero world, but she's not like a traditional superhero. She's a magical girl. And she does not like being a magical girl. She dreams to be a more like mainstream type of hero. So this is her dream. I've made it come true. You're welcome, Anya. And I've never designed a superhero before. So this was a fun little challenge. I didn't have a whole lot of time to put actual thought into the design like I normally would, but it was fun to attempt, even with the time constraint. And I'm not entirely sure what her superpower would be, so I didn't actually get to incorporate anything like that into the design, which I normally would like to do. So it's a little bit generic looking, maybe. I don't know, I tried. But let me know what you think her superpower would be. Day 26, selfie. We've got Joe and Noel again. A vision came to me with this prompt of Joe taking a selfie at a fast food place while Noel is mid-bite. I thought that'd be really funny, so I had to make it happen. I used to always draw them in the same outfits, but since this is a modern setting, I thought it'd be good to switch up their fits. You can't really see them in this drawing much, but it's been sort of fun, this challenge, to draw them in different outfits than all the old drawings I have of them. But yeah, Joe's being very casual about the selfie, and Noel is very confused. I also tried to make it look like it's being taken in the camera app. I stole a little template off the interwebs for that. And I added those little boxes on the face that cameras do. And I thought it'd be funny that since this is a supernatural story, to have a little mysterious third box floating above them. Like there's a ghost in the fast food place. Ghost hunting just never takes a break, you know? That's why she's taking the selfie shortly. To ghost hunt, as one does. I also made a version of this drawing that doesn't have the whole template in the boxes, so you can see it a little bit better. So I'll show off both of those. Day 27, animal ears. So we've got Alma once again from the fantasy story with wolf ears, because back in the early days of this story, Alma was just straight up a wolf. This was originally going to be a very small practice video game with Kai as the player character, and then Alma was going to be the wolf companion that he's got. But I ended up not doing that. So that sort of just changed. I'm not very good at drawing animals either. So I just ended up making her a person over time. There was actually like this in-between time where she was a person cursed to be a wolf, but I only ever drew her in her human form, so I gave up that idea and she's just a person now. And the only thing remaining of that time is her fluffy hair. But yeah, I think it was for the best. I don't think that storyline really works with this way the story is set up now anyway, so it worked out, but it was nice to reminisce on her wolf days, you know? Day 28, old version meets new. Of all my characters other than Elma, I think Theo has changed the most design-wise. I wanted to pick him for this. Originally, he was just straight up evil. He was just like so chaotic and bad, and was like part of the reason that led Niall out of the demon world was his original role in the story, which I didn't like. And also his design was very ugly. I'm sorry to child me. His color scheme was just a mess, and even once I settled on the more pastel color scheme for him, I tried so long to keep that over-the-shoulder jacket thing that he's got, and I just don't like it. I don't know why I tried so hard to keep that for so long. But yeah, I wanted to draw current Theo and old Theo interacting with each other. Current Theo has a lot of siblings, and they all mistreat him and are honestly kind of similar in personality to the way old Theo was. So I felt like Theo would be a little bit apprehensive around him. Honestly, I'm kind of considering taking elements from this old Theo design for one of his siblings, maybe. I think that could be a fun little homage to old Theo someday. But yeah, I definitely think he's changed for the better in all senses of that word. Design-wise, story-wise, and just as a person. He's just better. Day 29 with a weapon. In both this year and last year's OC-tober, I never actually drew Gavin properly anyways, which is so sad because he's one of my favorite OCs. So I finally am drawing him properly now. And as I mentioned earlier, his family was very overprotective of him when he was a kid. Reason being, he was involved in an accident or like incident that left him injured and scarred on the forehead. So the scar sort of represents a part of himself that people see as weak. So in this moment where he wants to show strength in this battle, whatever this battle is, I don't know, he's got the sword lifted up and positioned in a way that covers the scar. Symbolism, you know? Kinda. I was trying something. I honestly wasn't super happy with the drawing itself in general, so I was overcompensating with the rendering. But like I said, rendering is my favorite part. So I just really went for it with the lighting and the sort of smoke surrounding him. He's kind of in rubble fighting, as one does. I also realized way after posting this that I forgot the buttons on his jacket. He's missing buttons. It's quite sad. They all blew off during this fight. Isn't that tragic? Everyone drop an 07 in chat for his buttons. Tragic. Rest in peace. Day 30 crossover. So for this, I crossed over Chosen One's Academy with my fantasy story. So a while ago, I made these student ID card template for all the canon characters in Chosen One's Academy. And I thought it'd be a fun opportunity with this prompt to use it to make Kai a student ID. Like he's a new student at Chosen Ones. So yeah, I scribbled a little portrait for him and slapped it in there. I felt like he would not be a fan of the blazer in the school uniform, so I just gave him the collared shirt. And I also felt like he doesn't know how to tie a tie. I don't know, he just has that vibe about him. I also can't tie a tie, to be fair. But yeah, he looks so weird in this outfit. He looks weird in any outfit that isn't his own. It's just how things are. And for all the official Chosen Ones Academy cards I've done, I've included little items around the card that sort of represent the character, or like stuff that the character would have. So for Kai, I've got some nature, some clovers and a stick and a blue string. He's not a materialistic person. I wasn't entirely sure what to put around his card, to be honest. But one thing that I really wanted to include was this 4-leaf clover, but the 4th leaf is sort of singed off. More symbolism. Ooh. I think it just sort of represents his kind of self-destructive behaviors. Sorry, Kai. Calling you out there, bud. He's sort of burning his own luck, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Is that a cool visual symbolism? I don't know. Day 31 masquerade ball. Last year I finished off with my persona, so I'm doing that again this year. And honestly, at this point, I was so burnt out, even more so than last year. I just didn't want to be doing this anymore. So I just stuck with a portrait for this one, and I wanted to focus on the design of the mask. I wanted the mask to sort of match my name, Stormmyth. So for the myth part, I went with this crown shape for the overall shape of the mask. Very regal, including the like regal embossing and patterning. Because when I was a kid, I really loved Arthurian myths and legends. So I wanted that sort of depicted. And then for the storm part, I have these little raindrops dangling from the bottom of the mask. And the bottom of the mask is sort of scalloped like a cloud. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I was really unhappy with this drawing even while working on it because I was rushing it because I was so tired. And also, I procrastinated until the last minute to do this one. Yeah, burnout got me this year, unfortunately. But yeah, alas, it is what it is. 31-day challenges would do that to you, you know? But yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for all the support. I posted these as shorts throughout the month, and so many of you stuck around and commented every single day, and that support really means a lot. Thank you so much. And if you did this challenge, I saw a lot more people doing this challenge this year than last year, which was such an honor that people would choose my list. And it was so fun seeing everyone's art. You guys are so talented, and I hope you enjoyed the challenge. Even if you only did 1 or 2 days, I hope you had fun doing those days. And shout out to my patrons, Jesse, T-Mancer, and Jihe. If you would like to join the Patreon, every tier gives you access to our Discord. And earlier this month, we did a thing where you guys could submit your OCs, and we put them through a little tournament thing. It was really fun, so I definitely recommend. And I'll be uploading a couple of these drawings as long form speed paints if you want to see more details of what I'm drawing a little bit slowed down compared to this one. You can see those on certain tiers. But yeah, that's that for this, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.